And good evening, everyone. ESS, Empire State Sports, proudly presents the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. With our host tonight, Dave Bartlett and Joey Ream and myself, and our guest tonight, Tupper Lake, former varsity basketball coach, Steve Skiff. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Tupper Lake legend.
That's right, Tupper Lake.
Coach Steve Skiff.
Yeah. I'll turn it over to Joey. He can fire away.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, Skipper. Boy, we've been waiting for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I broke out the best stuff tonight just for you.
All right. That's a friend right there.
Yeah.
A good
Well,
friend.
we've been waiting to have you on, and we'll get into the sappy stuff later. But how's life in Tupper Lake right now? Have you been on to the golf course? Is that open to you up there yet?
We're open. I played last Friday and Saturday. Course is in great shape. Just walking though, no
Yeah.
cart.
Yeah.
Last couple days been kind of cold and chilly, so I hadn't made it up there, but I plan to get up there a lot more. The weather
But they are open for business. As far as is it members only right now, or are they allowing on guests?
No, it's open for anybody. It's all walking.
Yep. Course in good shape?
Great shape. In fact, it's probably the best shape I've ever seen at this time of year. It was a great win. And what a bad time to have this happen.
I know. As far as being an athletic director in the sports, this was the first time in the 5 years I was an athletic director that I could have had the kids outside of the gym in the middle of March. We actually had the lacrosse team was on our new turf field that 1 week of practice that we were able to have before we went on pause. So it's amazing. Golf courses and spring sports had an opportunity to be early this year, and this has held it up and stopped it completely. So
it sure has. I feel so bad for those seniors this year. Missed this whole spring season.
Yeah, it's a trying time, and actually I just set up a couple of Zoom meetings for my basketball guys, but obviously they play spring sports as well. Right. I just want to talk to them just to see how they're doing and how they're handling this, because I haven't. It's now been over a month, obviously, since I've literally seen them, and that's too long for me. I'm lucky if I go a couple of weeks without seeing my kids at some point. So
right.
But Coach, it's number one, it's great to have you on, and
thanks for having me.
One of the reasons that we started this up during this break was we really wanted to. It's gotten to the point where we're reaching way more people than I would ever have thought. But my first thought was to talk to the old time coaches, the old legends. Luckily, the younger guys want to get on and tell their stories too. But I've been waiting to get the young old coach. I don't want to call you just old coach, Steve. So. I've been waiting to get the young old coach to tell some stories and maybe give some people some background and hear one of those things that whether I've heard it 100 times, I'd be happy to hear it number 101, or if you got something new that we haven't heard before. But Russ Bartlett dropped a couple of Skipper stories when we had him on a couple weeks ago. So we're looking for your side of the story. And if you want to get Russ back, your new superintendent up there, we certainly don't have any problem with that.
Well, isn't that something? I texted him, I said, don't forget us little people now that you're at the top. No, I'm really happy for him getting a superintendent job. It's a good choice.
I said the same thing to him.
Sure you did, Dave. Yeah, well, they made a great choice. He's going to do a great job.
I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah, I'm sure too. It's funny. I met Russ the first day he was up here and got his job. I was walking down the hall. It was in the summer, and Jim Ellis, who was a friend of your family's, Dave.
Yep.
Was walking up the hall, and he introduced me to Russ, and the superintendent at the time happened to be standing there. And our principal, Jim Ellis, introduced me as the basketball coach. And the new superintendent goes, he's a social studies teacher. Russ said after, I didn't know what I got myself into there, you know?
So, Coach, Russ kind of gave us a breakdown of how long you coached and everything. But if you want to give us like when you started and how you started and who hired you and all those little backgrounds, if you want to talk about that stuff, feel free. And that those are usually the things that Pete and Dave, we feed off of that, and we'll just take it from there.
Sure. Well, my background's a little interesting, as you know, because we played in both leagues at the time. So I started teaching in Tupper in 1980, and when I came here, there was an opening for the boys JV position. And I took that position. I had it for 1 year, and I was called into the AD's office by Frank Tice, who was a legend of years up here.
Oh, yeah.
We had won one varsity game in 2 years. And that was my first experience coaching. I mean, I played basketball, but I had no previous experience. So the 1 year in JVs, he called me in the office at the end of the season and said, "You're the varsity coach next year."
Mhm.
That's how I got the job. I didn't. He said, "You are the varsity coach next year." So that's where it started. In 1980, 1 year JVs, and then took the varsity position in the Northern League until I guess it was 1989, when our AD at the time, and some people, not me, because I'm an old North Country guy here, you know, NAC guy, decided to go up the Champlain Valley. So we were up there from 89 till around 95, I guess. And then we had a new AD come in, and we started discussions on moving back into the Northern League. And we came back, and so I coached, I guess it was 205, till I retired in 214, or 2015.
So you said NAC, Northern Adirondack?
Northern Athletic Conference.
I was sick of the conference.
Oh, I got you. Jeez.
I do it easier. Section 10, then we went to 7, then back to 10. So when we started when I started coaching in Section 10, we were in the Central Division at the time period with all of the large schools like you play, Joey, now. And we were pretty competitive. I mean, my second year coaching varsity, second, third, and fourth, we made it to the sectional finals. Didn't win any of them, but we had some close games. But one of the big differences then is we didn't have hockey at the time period. So even though we were a lot smaller, we only had the one sport in the wintertime. Once we moved up into Section 7, we started a hockey program, and we also started winter track. And as our numbers got smaller, it became harder to compete. But up in Section 7, it had 2 divisions. There was a big school and smaller school, and you played the big schools once and the smaller schools twice. So that worked out fairly well. And then when we came back into Section 10, as you know, we were put back into the Central Division for a few, I guess, 2-3 years. Then we played 1 year as an independent. And then that's when we started a rotation of one of our, in the Eastern Division to be in the Central Division each year, until you, I guess, volunteered to stay in the Central Division. So that's pretty much my background.
Yeah, and I'm finally out. I finally am coming out. So back to the East. So
who's gonna take your place?
It's supposed to be Norwood, but Norwood is opting to go to the West because Clifton
really?
Fine doesn't have a team. They're going to go to the West for a season.
I see.
So it's going to probably add a little bit of travel to them, but it does mean they can avoid playing Canton, OFA, Messina, and Malone 8 times too. So
Sure.
So
it's tough. It's tough.
And it probably will only be for a year. Because it's pretty much come down to and this is supposed to be about you, but not this, but since you know the stories of being in the Central Division,
Sure.
it's come down to the 8th biggest school will be the team that's got to make a decision of whether or not they are in the Central or if there's something else open someplace else. If the eighth biggest school's only option is a spot in the Central, that's where they're going. And this year, Norwood, based on the bed numbers, is bigger than St. Lawrence Central. So
Really?
and more than likely, it will only be 1 year. So, but it'll give me a year break, and we need it because we're pretty much starting over after this season. So we'll be up in Tupper Lake this year at some point. So those years that you were in Section 7, I mean, I know you'd rather have been here in Section 10, but how were those 6-7 years of being over there? Was the travel any different? Was it better?
Actually, one of the reasons we moved up there supposedly was it would be less traveling. It was actually more traveling than it is in Section 10. I had no problems playing in Section 7. Great guys. I mean, a lot of the coaches there, like Larry Converse, close, Mike Graney, John Rebedew, all those guys they were great guys. Got to be good friends with a lot of them. But I always missed Section 10. Just the fact that, I went to school in Tupper Lake. I played ball back in the days of playing at Appleton Arena, in the Final Four. So it was a tough adjustment going up there. But like I said, I had no problems. Coaches were great. One major difference, though, I did notice with 7 and 10 is relationship with the coaches was great. But in Section 10, it's amazing how much better the relationship is between the officials and the coaches than it was up in 7. Up there, it was like you didn't. I'll go back to the days of going to the St. Lawrence Inn after games. And you'd go in, it'd be a lot of the coaches, and a lot of the officials. The games were over, have a beer, eat some popcorn, talk about games that were going on that night. In Section 7, it was frowned upon for the officials to associate with the coaches. It was just the way it was, and I found that kind of interesting, a little sad in a way because I always enjoyed the camaraderie that we had in Section 10. And I always talked to them up there about the golf tournaments we had, like the Paddy or going to Amsterdam, and it was always Section 10 coaches and officials together. And I liked that a lot better about 10, but I certainly enjoyed my years in Section 7, though.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Coach. I always feel like our officials, for the most part, you have your outlier situations, but for the most part, the officials and our coaches, it's a real more family atmosphere. We do get along, and we look forward to being with each other. I think we mentioned this with Russ when Russ was on, how we all look forward to Glens Falls. Right. And whatever happened during the season was set aside. We'd bump into officials, and it was camaraderie and friendship, and getting together and talking, and not even talking basketball, just talking life. So I think you're right. I think the connection that we have is great up here in Section 10. It always really has been.
Really is. And I don't want to play the officials in 7, a lot of great guys, and some of them I became friends with, but we just didn't have the camaraderie that we have in Section 10. And that's a really nice piece of it.
Well, and I usually play one game every year. I go up and play Saranac Lake at North Country, so we always get Section 7 officials. And my opening line is, I hear Nate Bilo says you guys are the best, and that usually makes everything okay. For what that's worth. Yeah. Sometimes I get a look like, this guy's going to be trouble. He's mentioning Bilo,
but going back, you asked about the traveling up there. Some of the trips up there were, going to Ticonderoga was a good 2 hours on the bus. Northeast Clinton was, one exit before Canada. It was 95 miles, round trip, or one way, excuse me. So there were a lot of, going to Mariah, you could get there, you just couldn't get home, It was a lot more travel.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, we talked about Mariah just, it was last night with Coach White from Lake George. Because Mariah had gotten upset by Matter Waddington in the regional semifinals at Maxey Hall, and I had commented on the fact that to Coach White that that night couldn't have been any worse for Mariah. It was terrible weather that night. And on top of that, there was a delay in the girls' game before they started. And then you throw on top of that, people think that Mariah, I've always said this, people think that Section 7 and Section 10 being right next door to each other, it's just it can't be more than an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. Not Mariah to Potsdam is all of 2.5 hours through the mountains in good weather.
Sure. All of that. Yeah, that was just from Tupper, it's an hour and probably 45 minutes, you know, so
Yeah.
I mean, Potsdam is a lot further.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and now that I think about it, it's just one of those things off the top of my head. Thank you for coming down. You came down in crappy weather yourself, I think, that night when we played Mattard Waddington.
Yes, that was quite a drive down and back.
I caught a glimpse of you for 2 seconds before I noticed that you're just walking in as the game started. So
Well, you were busy, so
yeah, I was busy. We lost Russ or Dave here, huh, Pete?
Yeah, he's trying to reconnect right now. The power went out, so he's trying to get on his phone.
Okay. Well, Steve, I'm sure Pete's got some questions here brewing, so I'll hand it over to him.
I'll be honest with you, Coach. I don't have a lot. I mean, hold on a second. There's Dave trying to get back in. There he is. We'll get him back in here.
Well, I was thinking about it, you know, before we did this tonight, and I was thinking, you know, about when I started in 1980. It just dawned on me, it's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Been a lot of changes in 40 years.
You with us, Dave?
When I started.
He's trying to connect. Sorry, Coach. I didn't mean to step on you there.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Joey, the first year I coached here, we still had the fan backboards. And I started a group called the Hoop Boosters, and our first raffle was to buy glass backboards for the gym. Sounds a little bit like Hoosiers that long ago, you know, but that was the truth.
Yeah.
Fan backboards, wow.
Fan backboards. Gym was 68 feet long. It was before we redid the gym. That's another, I guess, pretty interesting story. The year they decided to revamp our gym the way it is, where it's currently today, North Country Community College said that we could use their gym to practice. I'm sure you know John Conowitz.
Yeah.
Okay. John was the coach there at the time period. And they allowed us to go over every single day and practice, and they gave us prime time to practice. It couldn't have been any better. The whole deal was our gym was supposed to be done by the second half of the season, so we played the whole first half out of town. And then, of course, like any project, it wasn't ready for the second half, so we played all of our home games over at North Country. On top of it, I had to get my bus license, and I had to drive to practice every day.
Well, that must be.
You drove the bus?
I drove the bus every day, 5 days a week to practice over in North Country, all winter long.
Oh, man.
That must have been a big difference for the kids, too, to run the big court compared to the smaller court.
Oh, it sure was. It sure was. You know, it took some adjustment because our gym was being done, so they were coming off the 68-foot gym to the 95-foot gym, you know. So, but it was good in terms of for the other teams in the league with the bigger courts.
Was the floor that North Country plays on right now the floor that they were playing on then, or is this new?
No, it was a rubber floor like Plattsburgh has, Plattsburgh State.
Okay. Oh, but I mean, but still same length and same facility.
Oh yeah, same length and everything. It's just they replaced it with a wood floor now, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Same building. That was John Conowitz was there. His first year was my freshman year at North Country Community College.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He took over for Kevin O'Neill.
Yes, he did. That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I stayed close with John. Used to come over after that, and I'd invite him over a year to some of my practices. Became really good friends, and he was, helped me a lot. In fact, he gave me one of my first pieces of advice. I guess it was, we were at North Country and we're playing in a game, and I got a little upset with the officials, and I got a technical. And John came down after the game. He put his hand on my shoulder. He says, "Give you a piece of advice." He said, "Never get a technical when you have the ball." I just was young. I got upset. So we had the ball, lost the ball, the 2 shots, He said, just put his hand. He says, "Never get a technical when you got the ball. Wait till it's going the other way."
Makes sense.
So Steve, when you started in the 80s, so the Central Division, you're a young guy at this point, and you're batting heads with Myrna twice a year, Jerry Howerhand twice a year, John Ryder in Malone
Yes.
twice a year.
John Allen, yeah.
But what was that like?
Bob Porter was the governor.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. The first year I took over the Varsity, I had a very young team, and we had to open up in Malone our first game, and then our second game was Governor at home, and they were the 2 top teams in the league. And I always joked after that we went up Malone, we got in the center jump, and I think it was 6-0 before we even got out of the circle. I thought, being young coach, we were ready. I had some good kids, but they were a lot of sophomores that moved them up and so forth. Malone was so good back then. And then we had Governor and Tupper. Pretty much the same thing happened. I'm beginning to think about it, or whether I made the right decision here or not. The third game of the year, though, we played Saranac Lake over there, and we beat them by 1 point right at the end of the game. One of the most exciting times of my coaching career. Not just for myself, but to see the kids react the way they did. Because as I said before, the first year I coached Varsity, we won 6 games. That was the year. And previous to that, they'd won 1 in 2 years. So when we beat Saranac Lake over there, I've never seen a bunch of kids more excited than that. And the young coach at the time was pretty excited too. Because that was a nice thing in 7, 10. And then when we did go to 7, we did renew our rivalry with Saranac Lake while we were there.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that, that you guys wouldn't play if there were years that you didn't. That's got to be the closest trip for you. Is Saranac Lake, isn't it?
Right. We didn't consider it a trip. It's like 20 minutes on the bus. We tried to play each other when we were in the different leagues, but it loses something.
Yeah.
It's just not the same rivalry as when you're playing in the same league together.
Yeah.
And the first year, my second year coaching, we went to the sectional finals at Maxey, and we lost to Saranac Lake by 1. So, I mean, that was, I want to say start, we had a rivalry, but my rivalry with Fraser Sturgeon was coaching in Saranac Lake at the time period. He was at the end of his career. So, when they moved to 7 ahead of us, we really missed that. I mean, it was a great trip, and it was great for the communities and so forth. But it is. Yeah. It was better travel for them, though.
Yeah, more recently, we just think about Tupper Lake. We sometimes forget that back in the late 70s. When did they leave? Early 80s is when they left?
Yes.
Yeah, Saranac Lake was with us in
right.
Section 10.
Mm-hmm.
So
everybody had 2 long trips. I mean, Tupper and Saranac Lake. I always kind of wondered, Joey, what it was like to be down where you're at, or like more so even like Potsdam or Canton, when every trip outside of like Tupper is so much closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no complaints. I mean, I always laugh when I hear one of my coaches for any of my sports going, "Oh, we got to go to Tupper today," or "We got to go to Governor." One of our longer trips. We only have 2 long trips, and it's really Governor and you guys. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. It's going to Chateauguay, not a big deal, because it's just we go to Malone from where we live. We go to Malone all the time, so just going another 15 minutes to go to Chateauguay is not a big deal. We don't even consider Northern Adirondack that long of a trip from where I am. But going to
Right.
Tupper Lake, going to Governor, those are the ones that we complain about. They seem to be our longest trips. So
It was the plus side, and we had to make all those trips, but it was, I think, a big home court advantage for us.
yeah,
'Cause we were used to traveling, but when teams came up here, it was a little different.
yeah,
But
and you
go
get
back to-
near
go
the
ahead.
end of your career. I don't know when it happened, but I can't remember. But we go up to your place and we have to sit in the bleachers right in front of our fans. You had nice cushioned seats for your guys. Not too much of a home court of advantage there.
Little bit,
Yeah.
little bit.
Ah, smart move. Smart move. So I have
I
to.
had some great battles. I mean, Jerry Howerhand was great to me when I first started. The first year, he invited me up to the camp at Tobyhanna in Pennsylvania. We rented a van from the ARC up here. I packed the whole team in it. We went down there and spent I don't know how many days. And that was the start of a good friendship with him. And Billy Myrna, of course, is a great friend for a long time. And certainly one of the best coaches I ever coached against, that's for sure. But the Central Division was tough. Still is tough.
Yeah, that it is. And the fact that you get to coach it, and I think back, that was when I was still playing, but we were in the East Division, but we would sneak over, play a couple of teams from the Central. But I think back that it's Myrna and Howerhand and John Ryder and
Steve LaBarge at Norwood.
Steve LaBarge.
Oh, yeah.
Norwood Norfolk was really good back then, and they were in the Central, and they belonged in the Central at that time.
Yes, they were in the
level.
Central.
For the level they played at.
And then Stevie K-Mac came in the Potsdam. I mean,
Stevie. Forgot about Stevie.
Yeah.
Can't imagine I forgot about Stevie.
And George Gordon came in the Governor and took over for Bob Porter.
Yeah.
We had some battles back then. It was quite a crew at the time. I heard Russ talk a little bit about the infamous game at Canton when Jerry was coaching at the time period, but
you kicked the scoreboard or something, or what was that?
We get to the game, and Jerry takes me aside, and he had a kid by the name of Johnny Matat.
Yeah.
He said he gets 10 points tonight. He's going to get 1,000 points. You might be stopped again. I said, no, by all means. So I had a young point guard at the time, just sophomore, Timmy Dennis, who became a all-Northern, really great ball player. And I put him on him, and he held him to 9 points. And they were a better team than we were, but we were right there at the end of the game. We're up by 1. They take the last shot. The gym is packed, and it's loud. The shot hits the rim. The buzzer goes off. And I'm not exaggerating one bit, because that's why this story is so well known. Our kids start celebrating. Our fans start celebrating. Kid from Canton hits the ball off the rim, puts it back up. Nobody's really paying any attention. Jerry takes his team. We huddle up. He's already taken his team off the court, and I look over and I see the officials over at the scoring table. Well, they went over and said they didn't hear the buzzer. So they asked Pat Casey, poor Pat, was it good or not? And he said, oh, it was good. Well, the place just erupted. And I went over a scoring table, and I got a little, I kind of hit it with my hands, and it kind of went over on top of Pat. It's a great story now at the time period. But,
so wait a minute. They just went to the clock keeper and asked, was it good or not?
That's the official. If neither official on the court can make a determination.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Jerry had to come out of the locker room to find, this is true. He didn't know he won. Somebody had to go get him in the locker room with his kids.
Oh wow.
We all had close ones off the buzzer beaters, but this literally hit the rim when the buzzer came off. Kid got the rebound, put it back up. Well, nobody was even paying attention. Everybody was, were celebrating. It was a huge win for us. So I got a little zealous there, and I kind of flipped the table.
I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know how that's unavoidable, to tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Might have took me
Yeah,
out
that
in
was,
cuffs, actually, bro. So,
oh,
Coach, I'll
gosh,
put you on
yeah.
the spot a little bit. Over your career, I got to ask you. Actually, it's a couple parts. Your favorite team and your favorite season. I'm sure there's. Well, we've talked to other coaches, and they said, "Well, my favorite season was this, but the best team we had." So I'm going to pick your brain and find out what your answer is.
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked it like that because I can. 97, 98, we had the best team that I ever had, and we won the league. I don't think we ended up 14 or 16-2 in league play. We're in Section 7 at the time period. Both my sons were playing for me. We won the sectionals. That was the year of the ice storm. And
Oh, yeah.
we ended up getting upset in the regionals by Potsdam in a very low scoring game. They really used the clock. They did a great job. That's the best team I ever coached, and it was a lot of fun. The next year, I had one of my sons back. They were twins. One didn't play a senior year, but the other did. He came back. There were two other seniors who were my 6th and 7th man the year before, and then we had 2 sophomores. So we weren't picked to do a whole lot in the league, and we ended up winning the league that year. And we lost in the semifinals of the sectionals the night before. In practice, my son broke his hand, and his mother took him over to the emergency room. They were going to cast it, and he walked out. He played that night, but he played with one hand, and he was our school's all-time leading scorer, assist leader, and 3-point shooter, and so forth. So he was a really good player. So to answer your question, Pete, that second year, even though we lost in the semifinals, we won our league. It was really rewarding considering how young our team was and just what they accomplished. The year before was a lot of fun also, but we really had, by far, I would say, the best team that I've ever had.
Yeah, it's not
the other team.
it's not meant to be
Go
a
ahead.
trick question because we've asked other coaches, and they'll say, "Well, it's kind of tough to, put a finger on it because." There's a difference between a good team and a championship team. And
Right.
I'm hearing that from you, the same thing. So.
Yes. The other team that comes to mind, Joey, you remember the team I had the year before I retired when we beat Rushton?
Yep.
That team, wasn't, and I remember telling them at the banquet that team was not the best team I ever coached, but they probably played one of the best games I ever coached when we beat Rushton that night. I mean, just everything they did, the execution was, I remember just sitting on the bench, like going, everything was working. It's just one of those nights. But that was a fun
Kind of
team.
one of those times kind of one of those games where you just want to stay out of their way.
Exactly.
Well, in that team, you knew you were building up that team. That's the team you came back for after your 1 year. I always called that was your. Do you remember the TV show Dallas when they killed off Bobby Ewing and then they brought him back a season later and they just made it look like the show never happened for a year. That's what it felt like that year that you were missing. I played Tupper Lake that year to open the season in Lisbon for some reason, and you weren't coaching. We rolled Tupper Lake, and I'm like, this isn't right. Something's going on here. Skipper's not here. It's not the same. It doesn't feel good. So, but you came back that following year.
Following year, we won a few games.
I was the number one seed, and you came into our place, and you gave us all we could handle, and we knew you. I'm like, oh boy, these guys are going to be a problem. And then the next year, you were the number one seed,
and
Right.
Canton went up and upset you guys.
Yes, they did. Yes,
So
they
you
did.
had a lot of aggression going into that
Oh, yeah.
2014 season. Like, hey, we got to get this done. And what was it? Was it Keniston? Was that his name? Mitch?
Yes. Yeah, Mitch.
Great player.
Well,
Great
yeah,
player.
great player, great kid. Yeah, he was a really great player. Yeah, that was the year we had to get it done. And then, of course, the next year we lost Randy and Tupper on the buzzer beater in the semis. Had a lot of those.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. You and I had a lot of those. You seem to
we
come out
did.
on the right end of those, but
We had some battles. Boy, I guess so. The year we won the league was at your place. That was the year Canton upset us in the playoffs, but we played you the last game of the season. Whoever won the league. And
Yep.
I think that was the game that the Klausner kid hit the deep corner jump shot. Remember,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was about that, Steve, was you beat us both times. We ended up being the 2 seed. Canton was the 4 seed.
Right.
And we played them during the regular season and had lost to them. Brushton was the only team that we felt confident against. And Brushton, last game of the season, Randy won on a buzzer beater that got them the 3 seed. And then they came into our place and we rolled them. And then we found out you lost. I was like, holy cow, we're the top seed now going into the Class C championship.
There you go.
Still, we were playing somebody that had beaten us, but we felt a little more confident against Canton than we would have against Mitch and you. I know that because you just seem to have our number that year. I know that.
Sometimes it's just matchup. Sometimes, you know, we
Mitch
actually beat Canton earlier that year, and then they came back up and beat us in that.
And we'll have Billy Porter's coming up. Billy was the coach then, and for Canton. And Billy's coming on in a couple of weeks, and we can probably talk about that game a little bit because I always wondered about that game. Obviously, I was busy playing mine, and you think about those semifinal nights. What's going on in the other game? As soon as you get done, what happened in the other game? That's why sometimes I wish. Remember the first year you and I matched up in 2010. Both of the Class C semis were in the same gym. They were in the same location, so you knew what was going on.
Sure.
Now we're separated. I don't mind having the home court when you get it, but it kind of stinks because you don't know what happened. You can't scout.
Yeah, I always, I guess I never fully understood why they changed it to where the semis were in the home gym. I mean, it's nice if you get it, but I always thought it was a great experience for the kids to be able to play in the college gym, instead of just the finals. Because it was always, when I first started coaching in the Central Division, you played semifinals and the finals at Potsdam. And when did they stop doing that in Second 10? I think we were in 7.
I think it was before Joe was done being a coordinator. Not that Joe had anything to do with that. It was that's more the section. Carl and Jim Michelson maybe had been back then. Yeah. But I think part of it, from everything I've learned as an AD, it certainly has something to do with if they're paying for the venue. True. And for some reason the Class C semis at a neutral court just didn't draw in the fans the way they would have had they just been hosted by the home court team.
Home team. I guess that makes sense in the semis, sure.
Because my argument is now, Steve, is diorama is not what it used to be. They can say that it is, but it's not. It's not anywhere close to what it used to be. And I'm like, geez, the 8th seed in the D's gets to play on a college floor in front of 20 people, but we can't play C semis. We have to play the C semis at a in a regular old high school gym.
Sure.
Give and take, though. I mean, it was not. I mean, I had a semifinal game at home this year, and it was an awesome experience to be able to have that game at home. But you're right. The kids love playing on a college floor too.
I always said Maxey Hall is like the garden to kids up here. When they walk in that place, they might as well be walking in Madison Square Garden. It has that aura about it with the North Country kids. Mm-hmm. I get a thrill every time I'm taking a team to go play there. You can't help but be excited.
Can't agree more.
I used to, let's say.
So, well, there's a big. So one of the things I hear from Nate Bilo, Dermot Morgan, Larry Converse, the coaches that are friends of mine from Section 7. Section 7 playoffs as compared to Section 10. I mean, Plattsburgh State Fieldhouse as compared to Maxey Hall, and we always wondered, like, it's just not the same, right? I'm assuming that avenue is not the same for you.
No. In fact, in 97, 98, when we won the sectionals, we beat Northeast Clinton. We actually played at Memorial Hall, and I never understood why they went to the field house, because Memorial Hall was big enough. It was packed. It had a really great atmosphere to it. Yeah, playing in the field house, I don't know, just you could put 500 people in there, 600 million. It doesn't seem like you have anybody in there, and there's no background to the baskets. It's just it's a tough place to play.
Yeah, I agree.
It's nothing like Maxey, that's for sure. That old rubber court, and probably because they took teams there and they never shot well in that gym.
Yeah, we practiced there when I played at Clinton Community College. We didn't have our own gym back then. Clinton didn't have their own gym at the time, and so we practiced either at the Plattsburgh State Fieldhouse, and I hated it in there. I mean, you're right. It's just not it's not a basketball atmosphere. It's just, and then playing games there, like you said, you can put several hundred people in there, but it doesn't seem like there's anybody there.
No.
There's no contact. There's no intimacy there.
Yeah, and there's no background, the background behind the baskets, it looks like forever. It's just something our kids never play in an arena like that, so it always seems
the rubber floor too.
Yeah. Rubber floors.
The rubber floor. It's not even a hardwood floor.
No, it's not. I preferred Memorial Hall. We played there a few years. I played in 2 section championships in Memorial Hall, and I preferred that. I mean, it would always be packed. It held a good number of people, but the atmosphere was so much better. But either one compared to Maxey Hall. That's got the best atmosphere. Although, I do like the new Canton ATC. Jim, how do you feel about that one?
I especially like it, Steve, on day games when the natural lighting gets in there.
Right.
I played a couple of my state playoff games there in the daytime, and it was like this. It was cool. It packed, and they put the seating around the floor, so you got the people are kind of on the floor too. So I really like that, and you don't have anybody behind you, so it's got everything that I like.
Yeah.
So
when we won the championship a couple of years ago, and beat Randy in there, that was the first time I've ever been in the place, and I was very impressed with it. In fact, you were working that game, Joe.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with it. It's the only time I ever played there, but nice.
Yeah,
I think I might have came out and handed you your plaque.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah,
I wanted to do that.
We broadcasted at both places, and as much as I loved Maxey Hall, we were way up, upstairs, and that it's so much different being courtside and broadcasting a game there at Canton. It really felt you were part of the action on the floor,
Mhm.
So that was my view of the place. I really loved it up there. So.
No, it's a great facility, sure.
So, Coach, so were you a little bit? Were you headed to Glens Falls this year, seeing that they're coming back from Binghamton?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes. I was planning to be here. Russ was going down because he goes down for his meetings. We always meet at
Bar food.
Sandy's near the library. You know where it is, Dave.
The librriary, yes.
The library, yeah.
Right.
Library.
Right across from the church.
Yeah, that's it.
So I want to share my personal Steve Skiff story.
Okay.
It was 6 or 7 years ago. I'm talking to my brother. I said, "Hey, we're going to go to Glens Falls," and he said, "Yeah, we'll go." And he says, he calls me. He says, "I'll tell you what." He says, "I'm going to be in Saratoga for my meetings." He said, "If you are at the corner at Blue Mountain Lake at 9 o'clock Friday morning, a friend of mine's going to stop and pick you up, and you can ride down with him." I said, "Okay." And so I'm sitting there at the corner, and car pulls in. I get in the car. He goes, "Hi, my name's Steve." And I said, "Steve, my name's Dave." And we drove down to Glens Falls, and I don't remember much of the rest of that weekend, but I've considered Steve Skiff a friend of mine since that day.
It was a great weekend.
It really was.
Uh,
It really
Was
was.
that the weekend we took all the pictures at Sandy's?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe
That
so.
was
Yeah.
quite the,
Dave had a Dave was rocking a big beard that weekend, if I remember right.
Yes, I was.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was. Yes.
I got pictures of that on Facebook somewhere. I know I do.
Mhm.
That was a good weekend.
That was such a disappointment when they moved it to Binghamton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I went every year, Steve. It wasn't the same. I mean, it just wasn't the same. And so we were all geared up. And to think we were just a week away from it when everything got put on
Yeah.
hold, so frustrated.
Yeah. Well, while I was in Binghamton, of course, being retired, I was going south, you know.
Mhm.
This year, I knew coming back Glens Falls, I still would go south if all this wouldn't happen. But I was planning to be here for that weekend because I wanted to do it again, you know. So much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you were because I needed a ride.
Next year, buddy.
Okay, deal.
Well,
Got
next
it.
year we're gonna have to leave on like Tuesday to make up for this year. We'll make
Oh,
it,
yeah.
might as well go for the full week.
That works
That
for me.
sounds like a plan.
we got rooms here where I am, so I'm only 20 minutes away. So,
Yeah, right.
but we can make
No, I look
something
forward
happen.
to it next year.
I mean, I got a ton of shopping I got to get caught up on.
Oh, yeah. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Is that what you call it, Joe? Shopping?
Well, everybody has their code, right?
Yeah. Hang on, I got some shopping to do right now.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rush used to show up first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee for each of us and a thing called Bailey's in it. I guess.
yeah.
That's
Start-
Pete's specialty.
Yeah, when we had this little virus crisis we're going through right now, I wasn't panicking until I woke up one day and I put my last shot of Bailey's in my coffee in the morning, and I have it every morning, and I'm going, we got a problem. We got a serious problem. And thank God the liquor stores were all open. And that's all I'm glad they were essential. So
They are essential. I'll tell you. What a wonderful country would they make them essential.
Right.
Gosh.
Oh, Coach, we had a great time talking to you. Anything in
Well,
closing?
thanks. You know, I really appreciate it because, you know, I really miss all of it. I miss coaching a ton. I'll tell you, it just comes a point in your life where you got to retire and do some other things, be with the grandkids and so forth. But doing something like this, it's great to talk about it and bring back the memories and just really appreciate it.
It was a
Well, we
pleasure
really
having you
appreciate
on.
having you on and sharing these stories.
Yeah, great
It's been
story.
great.
Yeah, and Steve, I probably speak for Randy as well. Randy and I both started out. We looked to you as a great mentor, and we couldn't wait to play Tupper Lake for the battles and just to be around you. We thought that highly of you, and that's why we look forward to playing golf with you, bumping into you at Glens Falls. I can't say enough good things about you, Coach, and you're a treasure for Section 10. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Joey, and I feel the same way about you and Randy. When I came back into the league, it was great to get to know you guys, become good friends, and had a blast last year when we got together with Billy and played some golf, and I'm looking forward to you guys coming up there this year.
We're coming. We're coming to Tupper Lake. We'll go play your home course. You give me 3 strokes aside. We'll have a good time.
Well, you got it. I appreciate it, Billy. Hey,
All right, Coach. Well, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
on the show. We're going to shut her down here for
Okay.
Joey Ream, Dave Bartlett, Pete Goslaw, and our special guest, Steve Skiff. That's it from ESS, Empire State Sports, and the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Everybody stay safe out there. Have a good night.